Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into the world of corporate documentaries.
Ooh, fun.
We've got this awesome guide from View One Media that's going to help us really break down how these films can totally transform businesses. So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just fascinated by the power of video storytelling, this deep dive's for you.
You know, it's really fascinating how much the business world has changed in terms of how they're communicating.
Yeah.
I remember those old school corporate videos,
Yeah.
all flashy graphics and cheesy slogans.
Right.
They just don't hit the same way anymore.
They really don't. It feels like audiences are craving something different these days, something more real.
Definitely.
Our source actually describes corporate documentaries as sincere, delicate, and touching. They even call it a realistic audiovisual experience.
Yeah.
Which I love. It's all about that authenticity.
It's not just about the look and feel, though. There's actually a deeper change happening, I think.
Interesting.
We're bombarded with information constantly.
Yeah.
And people are so good at just tuning out anything that feels like a sales pitch.
Right.
Corporate documentaries kind of flip the script, though. They tap into the power of storytelling.
Okay. Yeah.
And stories, they can sneak past our defenses,
Yeah.
They connect with us emotionally.
So let's break that down for a second.
Yeah.
Why are stories so powerful when it comes to marketing and building a brand?
Well, think about how we as humans make decisions. It's not always about logic, is it? Emotions play a huge role.
Absolutely.
That's where stories come in. They just grab us on this deeper level and build trust in a way that, facts and figures often just can't.
Right.
It's like the difference between reading a description of an amazing meal and actually tasting it.
You got it. And it's funny. Our source makes this point that I thought was so smart.
Oh, yeah.
They say the documentaries allow brands to kind of present their value to the audience in a soft way.
Okay.
And they believe this leads to longer customer loyalty and increased sales.
I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. A good story sticks with you.
Totally.
And there's another cool thing about this whole documentary approach.
What's that?
It's it gives you permission to pull back the curtain a little.
Okay.
The source mentions that documentaries can actually capture the real situation and operation of the enterprise, which just adds so much credibility.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's not just saying, hey, we're the best. It's about showing it in a way that actually feels genuine and relatable.
Yeah, I like that.
Especially in today's world.
Totally. So it's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly. Now, if you're thinking, okay, I want to create a documentary for my own business, this guide actually gives a really helpful roadmap.
Perfect.
They break the whole process down into 4 phases.
Okay, lay it on me.
So there's production planning, pre-production,
got it.
Production, post-production, and finally, promotion.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a phased approach, but I'm guessing there's some common pitfalls people make along the way.
Oh, definitely. In the production planning phase, you'd be surprised how often people kind of skip over really understanding their target audience. I mean, it's easy to jump right into brainstorming all the fun creative stuff, but if you don't really know who you're trying to reach, you could end up making something that totally misses the mark.
So do your homework first.
Yeah.
Got it. What about the pre-production phase?
Okay, so pre-production, don't underestimate the power of storyboarding.
Oh, really? Tell me more about that.
They're basically visual outlines of your film, almost like a comic-dic version of it.
Okay.
It helps you actually see the flow of the documentary.
I can see that.
It also helps catch any potential problems before you start filming.
Yeah.
And it just makes sure everyone's on the same page creatively.
That's huge.
It's a lifesaver, honestly. Saves so much time and headaches later on.
I bet. Okay, let's move into the actual production phase. Anything surprise you there?
Well, the source mentions lighting, which is often overlooked, but it can totally transform the mood and message of a scene.
Oh, for sure.
I remember working on this one documentary. We were filming an interview with a CEO, and we initially had this really bright, sterile lighting setup.
Oh, yeah, I can picture that.
And it made him seem so distant and unapproachable.
Interesting.
We ended up switching to a warmer, softer lighting.
Okay.
And it instantly made him seem more relatable and genuine.
Wow.
It was such a simple change, but it completely changed how the audience perceived him.
That's a great example of how those subtle details can have a huge impact.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, last phase is promotion. I feel like this is where it can get overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with all the different channels out there these days.
Definitely. And it's tempting to try to do it all. Website, social media, ads, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
But our source makes a really good point. be strategic.
Right.
Choose the platforms that will actually reach your specific audience most effectively.
So quality over quantity.
Exactly. Now, speaking of audiences,
Yes.
let's dive into how this whole documentary approach plays out in different industries.
Love that. I'm ready.
The source gives a ton of examples, from toys to finance.
Okay, awesome.
But to keep things relevant for you guys, we've picked 2 industries that we think might be super interesting.
Okay, hit me.
We're going to talk about technology.
Love it.
And the ever-evolving world of sustainable businesses.
Okay, those are great choices.
Let's dive in. Okay, so we're talking about how different industries can use these corporate documentaries, and how the approach can be so different. So we thought it would be fun to dive into 2 specific sectors.
Okay, I like it.
How about technology?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And then also sustainable businesses, that whole world.
Ooh, yeah, those are both super relevant right now.
For sure.
Especially tech. It just feels like it's moving at warp speed.
Right. It's always changing.
It's hard to even keep up.
Yeah, exactly. So how do documentaries even fit into that world? Well, the source actually suggests that tech documentaries should really focus on humanizing the technology.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's about showing how it solves problems, real world problems,
Yeah.
how it improves people's lives. It's less about the specs and features and more about emotional storytelling.
Okay, so you're drawing people in with a story they can connect to
Exactly.
instead of just throwing a bunch of technical jargon at them.
Right. Who wants to listen to that?
Nobody.
Imagine a documentary that follows a group of developers who are creating an app
Okay.
that helps people with disabilities navigate cities.
Oh, wow.
It's highlighting the company's problem-solving skills, but it's also about the positive impact they're having on people's lives.
That's a really cool example. Okay, what about sustainable businesses? I feel like there's so much emphasis on authenticity in that space these days.
Definitely. And consumers are getting really smart about greenwashing, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They can sniff it out a mile away. So transparency is super important. The source emphasizes showcasing the company's commitment to sustainability throughout their whole supply chain.
Right. You can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk.
Exactly. And documentaries can capture that entire journey,
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
the challenges, the wins, all of it.
It's like pulling back the curtain and letting people see the process.
Yes. And it really helps build trust with your audience.
Definitely. Okay, so we've talked about creating the documentary. We've talked about tailoring it to different industries.
Right.
But now comes the scary part.
What's that?
Budget.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing that usually freaks people out.
It can be intimidating, for sure.
But it doesn't have to be.
Exactly. Our source actually does a nice job of breaking down the costs.
Okay. How do they do that?
So they have 2 main categories. Production costs,
Okay.
which covers all your personnel, equipment, any props, location fees.
Gotcha.
And then there's promotion costs. That's all your media buys, social media campaigns, stuff like that.
Okay, so those are the 2 big buckets.
Yeah, makes it a bit easier to digest.
So what are we talking about realistically? What's the budget range?
Well, it really depends on how big you're thinking.
Right.
A really simple documentary, mostly interviews filmed in one location, that could be done for a few $1,000s.
Okay.
But if we're talking multiple locations, actors, animation,
Right.
all the fancy equipment,
It adds up.
yeah, you could easily be looking at tens of thousands.
Or more even.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So it's about finding that sweet spot between your vision and your budget.
Absolutely. I know the source also gives some budget optimization tips.
Yeah, they did.
Anything in there that stood out to you?
Honestly, one of the best tips is to just hire a good production company.
Okay.
They can make the most of your resources and make sure you're getting the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah, they're the experts.
Exactly. They know how to tell a story visually. And they'll make sure the documentary looks amazing.
It's worth it to invest in that expertise.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about making the documentary, figuring out the budget.
Right.
Now the question is, where do you actually use this thing?
Yeah, where does it live?
Because you've poured your heart and soul into it.
Right.
You want to share it with the world.
Of course.
The good news is there are a ton of options.
Oh, good.
We're talking website, social media, even things like TV ads and exhibitions.
Wow. Okay. So many possibilities.
Yeah, it can be a bit overwhelming.
It can.
But let's focus on 2 channels that are really effective right now.
Okay, I'm listening.
First up, your website. It's like your digital storefront.
Right.
It's where people go to learn about you.
Makes sense.
So you could create a really cool landing page with like a captivating trailer for your documentary.
Love that idea.
You can provide context for the film, highlight the key takeaways, have a clear call to action.
Oh, yeah, so it's more than just passively watching.
Exactly. You want people to engage.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now let's talk about social media. You can get really creative there.
Oh, I bet.
You can share like behind-the-scenes clips, interviews with the people in the documentary, little sneak peeks.
Yeah, I like that.
You're basically giving people the story behind the story.
Right.
And each post can link back to your website, driving traffic. It's a beautiful ecosystem.
I love it.
Okay, so we've got websites, social media, but there's one more big decision.
Hit me.
DIY or outsource.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. And the source talks about the pros and cons of each.
Right, yeah.
But let's walk through some key things to consider.
Okay, I'm all ears.
First, think about your budget.
Okay.
DIY might seem cheaper at first.
Yeah.
But you have to factor in equipment, software.
Right.
Maybe even hiring freelancers to help with filming and editing.
Good point.
Outsourcing to a pro company will cost more upfront.
Yeah.
But it could actually save you money in the long run.
Interesting.
And definitely save you a lot of stress.
I can see that.
Next, what about your internal resources? Do you have a team that can make a high-quality documentary?
Yeah, does it make sense to do it in-house?
Right. Or would it be better to bring in the experts?
That's a good question.
It depends on the company, really.
For sure.
And lastly, timeline. Do you need this done fast?
That's always a factor.
Outsourcing can be quicker.
Yeah, especially if they've got a streamlined process.
Exactly.
So you really have to weigh your budget, your resources, and your timeline to make the best decision.
It's a lot to juggle.
It is. I'm curious, in your experience, what are some of the biggest mistakes businesses make when they try to do it themselves?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
I see this all the time. People try to cram too much into the documentary.
Oh, yeah.
They want to show every single aspect of the business.
Every product, every achievement.
Right. And it just ends up being overwhelming.
Totally.
Less is more, you know?
Keep it simple.
Exactly. Focus on one story, one theme.
Okay, so have a clear narrative.
Yes. And another big mistake is neglecting the audio.
Really?
People get so focused on the visuals.
Right, it has to look good.
Yeah, but bad audio can ruin a great video.
It's so distracting.
Right. Invest in good mics, spend time on the editing.
It makes all the difference.
It really does.
Okay, this has been so insightful. Any other words of wisdom before we wrap up?
Yeah, honestly, just remember to be authentic. People can spot a fake a mile away.
They can?
So share your story with passion, with honesty.
Go right from the heart.
Exactly. That's how you connect with people on a deeper level.
Love it. Okay, well, this has been a fantastic deep dive so far.
It has been fun.
We're going to take a quick break and be back in a few to wrap up the episode. Okay, so we've covered like creating the documentary.
Right.
We've talked about tailoring it to your audience, to your industry, figuring out that budget.
Yeah, all the important stuff.
But now it's like, okay, you've got this amazing film.
Yeah.
What do you do with it?
Right. You've got to get it out there.
Exactly. How do you actually get it in front of people?
Well, that's where distribution comes in.
Okay.
And this is the part that I think a lot of people overlook.
Really?
Yeah. You could have like the most incredible documentary ever made. But if it's just sitting on your computer,
right,
it's not doing anybody any good.
It's like writing a book and never publishing it.
Exactly. So where do you start with this whole distribution thing?
Yeah, where do you even begin?
Well, the cool thing about documentaries is that they can live in so many places.
Oh, that's true.
You know, your website, social media, film festivals.
Right.
The key is to figure out what your goals are for the film.
Okay.
Like, what are you hoping to achieve?
Yeah, that makes sense.
More brand awareness.
Right.
Leads.
Yeah.
Investors.
Right.
Each goal might need a different approach.
Okay, so walk me through it.
Yeah.
Let's say my main goal is brand awareness.
Okay, brand awareness.
Yeah.
So for that, you want to be on platforms with big audiences.
Okay.
Social media is a great place to start. You can share clips from the doc, behind-the-scenes stuff, interviews,
right,
anything to get people interested.
So it's like a little marketing campaign for the documentary itself.
Exactly. And don't forget about influencers.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
It can really help spread the word.
Definitely. Okay, what about if my goal is lead generation?
Okay, lead gen.
Yeah.
Your website becomes your best friend.
Okay.
Make a landing page where people can watch the whole documentary, but they have to give you their email address first.
Ah, clever.
Right. You can also promote it to your email list.
Yeah, give them something exclusive.
Exactly. Like a behind-the-scenes look or something.
So you're giving them valuable content in exchange for their contact info.
Yep. Everyone wins.
Okay, what about investors? What if I'm trying to attract investors?
Yes, investors.
Yeah.
Think about film festivals or industry events.
Okay.
Those are great places to get your film in front of the right people.
Right, people who are actually looking to invest.
Exactly. Okay, so you've got your awesome documentary.
Yeah.
You figured out your strategy.
Distribution all planned out.
One last thing.
What's that?
Don't forget to measure.
Oh, right, the data.
You got to see what's working, what's not.
Makes sense.
Are people watching the whole film? Are they clicking your links?
Yeah.
The data will tell you what's resonating.
And then you can adjust your approach.
Exactly. So this has been a pretty amazing deep dive, I think.
It really has. We've covered so much.
We have.
But as we wrap up, any final words of wisdom?
Just remember, every business has a story.
That's true.
And a documentary can be a really powerful way to share it.
Yeah, it can connect with people in a way that other types of content just can't.
Exactly. All right, so as we say goodbye today, I want to leave you with a little challenge.
Okay, I like it.
Think about your business, or maybe a business you really admire.
Okay.
What story would you tell through a documentary?
Ooh, that's a great question.
What are their values, their struggles, their triumphs?
What makes them tick?
Exactly. Because ultimately, it's all about the power of story.
I love that. Well, that's a wrap on this deep dive.
It is.
We hope you enjoyed exploring the world of corporate documentaries with us.
We had fun.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing,
and keep telling those stories.
See you guys.